Okay. With that being said, good afternoon and welcome to the very first edition of HW Alumni Act, where we highlight HW alumni, preferably within the past 5 years, at some of our favorite public universities and liberal arts colleges. I'm honored to start with MIT because it was completely and like that's how it worked. MIT came first. So Alexandra, I'd love to tell you that I had you especially in mind, and I thank you for joining us. But MIT came out randomly, so that's how number one is. We have Alexandra So with us. She's HW class of 19, I believe. And were you MIT 23?
Yes, I'm MIT 23.
MIT 23. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself shortly. Ben Volek may or may not be joining us. He was HW 22, and I know he has class now, but said he was going to try to make it. So we'll see what happens. Either way, we'll do these events probably every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I know no one wants to have to kind of sort of sit through something 3:15 to 4 p.m. Friday afternoon. So I spared us Fridays. But we're going to try to get as many of these as possible to really give you an idea of the application process, um, really the choice, how you go, how they went, how our participants, our alumni panel participants went through the choice, the application, and then their experience once they got there. And Alexandra's a alum, so we get it all in one. We actually get we're gonna be able to talk about in this case MIT, but in other cases the schools that we're talking about, how they've impacted them thus far as alums. So just to give you some background,
it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be
give you some background in the last 5 years, which is really what I focus on. So that would be 2019 through last year for MIT. We have, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six. We have six people within the last 5 years. So obviously very selective. And we'll go through kind of sort of we'll get Alexandra's viewpoint on how she came to MIT and then what's happened with MIT. But before you begin, Alexandra, can you I don't know, give us a little bit of intro about yourself, a little overview, and maybe why you decided to agree to participate in this panel.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, I'm Alexandra So. I'm currently a second year I'm in med school at UCSF in San Francisco. And I graduated from MIT class of 2023. I studied brain and cognitive sciences and business management. And I joined this panel because I remember what it is like to be in your guys' shoes. It feels like yesterday that I was applying to colleges, and it was a pretty similar process with applying to medical school as well. So would love to share whatever I've learned with you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And if you don't mind, let's jump right into it. Um, I think you gave us a little bit about your school or major in the intro, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about what it encompassed at MIT. And then did you know what you were going to study heading into college? And if you did, or if you didn't, why was MIT the right choice for you?
Yeah, so I studied brain and cognitive sciences, as I said before, which is kind of just neuroscience mixed with cognitive science as well. And MIT brings in a lot of different technical aspects as well into every single major. So even that major, as well as my business management major, we had a lot of different coding aspects to it. Um, Everybody at the school takes a lot of general requirements, which include like physics, biology, chemistry. So everybody is very science oriented. So for me, who in high school was very interested in science, and I did a lot of research, and um, that was just like the perfect fit for me that I thought of. And I was also going pre-med, so I knew that those were a lot of the classes that I wanted to be taking. Yeah.
So you knew you were going pre med. And what else was in your radar? What other schools were you thinking about other than MIT?
So I was thinking about a lot of different schools. I honestly applied to like probably maybe 20 to 30 schools. So that kind of took up my entire winter break. But I really looked into a really wide variety of schools. I looked at liberal arts colleges, looked at colleges like UCLA, Berkeley, all the California schools, and then also looked into schools like MIT as well. And ultimately, it came down to like visiting the school and feeling the vibe of the school, and just having lots of conversations with upperclassmen who had already gone through the process.
Good, good. And then before we continue, I should have given everybody the ground rules. We're going to talk, Alexandra and I'll have a discussion for probably 20, 25 minutes. We'll probably go until 3:45, 3:50, and then we'll open the floor up for questions. And I know, I know you have questions. So that's what it's going to be more about. I just want to kind of sort of frame the discussion, frame the conversation, and you all take it from there. Okay, so so you're like me. I applied to 23 schools. This was 25 years ago. So you cast a wide net, right? And what kind of, you said that you applied to some liberal arts schools, you applied to some national public universities. Were you leaning one way or the other?
Not necessarily. I think I was very open to it. My advisor was, I'm not sure if she's still there, Dean Cardillo, was really great about teaching me about all the different schools and giving me a general understanding of every different school. And so I kind of just decided on a list based off of that.
Good, good. We're going to talk about diversity a little bit also. Uh, Overall, how diverse would you say MIT is as a campus? And then specifically, how diverse is your school or major? And we're talking about not only in race,
Yeah.
ethnicity, gender, we're talking about thought as well, geography. How, what kind of diversity are we seeing in at MIT and then your school specifically?
Yeah. So, like you said, I'm probably not going to touch on the breakdown of percentages because you
Mhm.
guys can look up yourself. But it was a very diverse school. I think, especially as someone going into science, and it's an engineering school. So, like, a lot of people might think that it's very male dominated, but it's actually not. It's quite split. And I think that was a really great environment to have. And I think a lot of people come into MIT very, very passionate about what they're interested in. So it was really good to have such a wide, diverse set of interests, and perspectives, and so many different people from different settings as well. I think that's like a big difference from Harvard Westlake is that not everybody's from this area. So it brings in a lot of new thoughts.
Good. And so would you say that it was something that when you got there, you were like, oh, like, this is what I'm used to because LA is pretty diverse. Like California is pretty diverse coming from the
Yeah.
perspective in the East Coaster. Or was it something where you were like, okay, I'm used to this. This is normal. Or were you taken aback by, for instance, it's an engineering school. The stereotype is that, it's very male dominant. Actually, reality probably backs that up. But you saw a number of um, non-male identifying either women or people who didn't identify necessarily as male or female. You saw a lot of that at MIT or enough of it, so to speak.
Yeah, so it's something I was like necessarily shocked by going in because like as you said, like LA is very diverse to begin with, but it's something that is super normalized at MIT. So felt very comfortable in all my identities.
Good. Now, a selfish question for your local neighborhood works director. What did you do the summers after your sophomore and junior year of high school?
I was actually thinking about this when I saw some of the questions. I don't exactly remember exactly what I did each summer, but I think sophomore year, I generally during high school did a bunch of different summer camps during the summer and also did research some summers. So I think sophomore year I did one at Yale. called Yale Young Global Scholars that was about like bio and biomedical innovations. And I thought
Right.
that that was really interesting and also just like a great way to meet new people. And actually, a lot of those people I met through that program happened to end up at schools kind of like near me. So like I had a couple friends from that program who ended up at MIT and also ended up at Yale and just schools around the area. So it was nice to see people and meet people that way. And I think junior year I did a program in Texas where I did some microbiology research, which was really cool. And then both summers, I think I just did some volunteering as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So,
but I was gonna
oh,
say,
that was
so you had,
it.
yeah, so you definitely had targeted, not targeted, but you're in med school now, so it's not, I don't think it's coincidence that going into college you had summers where you were doing STEM stuff, where you were doing science stuff. Um,
Mhm.
I also think that it's funny that you don't remember either. So the we're kind of sort of taught it's like, oh, these are those magical experiences that'll prune your profile. It's like, not really when you're 5, 6 years deep into it, right? It's like, it was, they were nice, they were good experiences. Um, but I think that's interesting that what you did during those summers kind of sort of fed into your profile for MIT, and it's actually now what you're doing after you graduate from college. Are you kind of continuing that route as we move forward, right? And I guess this is where it starts to get where it starts to get personal, and you don't have to share if you don't want to. But again, I really want to provide our parents and our students specific insight in case you all haven't checked the last HW Works for You. This past, I posted 15 essays from accepted students from national public universities all around the country. And so I'm sure many of you have seen that. The essays, in my opinion, took on a different kind of theme. If we can mute that. Is that it? No. There we go. They took on a different theme, and so you're free to view those. They are in the HW Works for You, ranging everywhere from Harvard, Penn, Yale, Brown, the schools that a lot of our students like to apply to, even though our universe should certainly be expanded further beyond those types of schools as well. Do you remember what you wrote about in your college essay?
Yeah, so obviously I had like a ton of different college essays applying to so many different colleges and they each have their individual questions. But my overall personal statement was kind of talking about my experiences getting into STEM and with volunteering and research and it kind of like melted together my like life experiences, like my personal life along with those experiences as well
Yeah, it's
and
what
just
I know.
shaped what I want to do for the future. I think it was an important part of the essay.
It's what I noted, and I think I saw it. And even though that was 5 years ago, um, still some of those same themes apply today. The idea of identity, community, and then how you are going to contribute, use one to contribute the other through like a personal or professional experience. So many kids talked about that and they tied in what they did summer after sophomore year, summer after junior year into it as an example of what they said they were going to be. And I thought it was great. So good. Like I said, that pretty much reinforces a lot of what we already know. And then now we get to ask you this because you're living it, right? Like you're an MIT alum in med school, came back to California, even though you're up north. Um, did you feel MIT prepared you or has prepared you for your career and life after it?
Oh, absolutely. I think MIT was a really great experience to not only learn academically what I needed to learn, it prepared me very well for medical school that way. And also Harvard Westlake very much prepared me for MIT, I feel, on another note. But also I think it helped me explore my other interests as well in computer science because I did a lot of that throughout high school. it also, I think it just prepares you to have like a little bit more of a technical mindset, and a problem solving mindset that I think is pretty unique and, um, something that I find to be really helpful even in med school, even though it's not directly related all the time.
Good. It's obviously one of the world's premier universities, so I wouldn't expect anything less. Did you have anything you wanted to wrap up with? Because it was really just you and I, and we're gonna get to these questions, and I'm sure there are questions and the ground rules. Just if you have a question, just use the hand function, and I'll get to you in the order that I see the hand function. Did you want to have a closing statement or wrap up with anything, Alexandra, about MIT or the college process or med school or all three or none of the above? However, you want to wrap it up before we get to questions.
Yeah, I just generally say in terms of like applying to colleges, not to stress too much. I know that that's an easy statement for me to say now that I've like gone through the process because I was very stressed throughout high school and even in college trying to get into med school. But at the end of the day, like there are so many different paths to success, what you define as success, so many paths to what your goal might be in the future, and so many different career trajectories. So even if you don't get exactly what you want now, it will work out in the end and you'll find a way there.
Really wise words. Thank you. I really wise words. That's what we're trying to get across. Okay, so that was an overview of MIT from the perspective of Alexandra So, 2019 HW, 2023 MIT. With that, we'll open the floor to questions. So, like I said, use the hand function. We'll be able to make it happen. Anyone? Chase. All you, sir. Knock it down.
All right. So while you were at MIT, did you have a chance to engage with the study abroad program, or do you know anyone who did?
Yeah, so actually I did in a way. So MIT does this program called Global Teaching Labs. So we have every January off every year, just so you can be able to explore your interests, work on different projects. So for one of the Januaries that I was in college, I went to Spain to teach, and I taught physics, chemistry, biology, and it was a really great experience. I also did one experience. I also had the short end of the stick kind of in terms of COVID, because that started my freshman spring, I believe, and then went on for a couple of years after that. So I was supposed to go to Taiwan my freshman summer at MIT, but ended up doing that virtually.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Insight? Commentary? No?
I
Well,
have another one actually.
Chase, it's all you, man. Knock it down.
So just like how demanding was the general workload at MIT as compared to Harvard Westlake?
Yeah, so I think it's very different. So basically in college, you kind of do problem sets and then you have exams. So it's in terms of workload, I would say it's probably less than Harvard Westlake because you're not taking, I don't even remember how it is, how many classes it is anymore, but like it was so many classes at a time, and then you're doing extracurriculars on top of that. At MIT, like the difficulty of the courses was definitely higher than Harvard Westlake. Um, but you're not doing as much all the time. So you have like more time and to be working on every single class. And I also think that Harvard Westlake overall like prepared me really well. I took physics C at Harvard Westlake. I don't know if they still have that, but um, I felt like that was like very comparable to my intro physics class, like pretty much the similar same material.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Alexandra, you handled this solo today. Oh, we got one. This is from, oh, my guy, Mateen. Do you have any tips for handling the college process or just any tips? How did you balance your time in college? That's for you.
That's a good question. I think you honestly just have to like schedule your time out so you don't like lose track of time, because I feel like there's way more time in college and you should be going to classes, but in college, like your classes aren't really mandatory attendance. So a lot of people like end up not going to class. So they get super behind. So for me, a big part of like staying on top of things was making sure I go to class. And so I'm like on top of material and like making sure that I know I'm like generally on pace with where I should be. Um, and then I just like to be busy all the time. So I just enrolled myself in like a lot of different extracurriculars and a lot of different organizations on campus. And I think having a lot to do really kept me on track too, because I knew that I have to like keep being productive in order to get everything done.
That was the balancing time. And then any tips for handling the college process? I assume it takes some
In terms
time.
of like applying,
Yeah, I assume that's what he's talking about.
yeah. Um, don't do what I did, I'd say. I applied early. I applied early and had like my application set for that, but then I kind of just like relaxed the rest of that time while I was waiting for my decision from early. Um, and so when I was like getting into the normal like application process, I just had so many essays to be writing. And I didn't really pre-write them like some of my peers had. And if I were to do it again, I would totally pre-write them so I could have a winter break instead of just writing all winter break.
Did you apply to MIT early?
No, I didn't apply to MIT early.
You mind sharing where you applied early?
Yeah, I applied to Yale early.
Applied to Yale early and ended up at MIT. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, any questions? Any more? This is our opportunity because you did this
Hey,
solo.
I
Oh,
have
go
a real
ahead.
quick question.
Sure.
Sorry, it's Joanne. In terms of the summer internships or the what you did, like the Yale Young Legal Scholars and those things, were there specific programs that you felt were worthwhile, or was there a reason why you picked the ones that you did?
I honestly think like a lot of these programs are a little bit too competitive given that you're in high school and applying for like all these like summer programs is kind of ridiculous, but that's kind of what I did. And I just like applied to a few summer programs each summer and just saw whatever I got in and decided to go based off of my interests. And I had a great time with those experiences, but also I wouldn't get hung up on doing programs either. I think there are a lot of really cool ways to make your application stand out. um, One thing I was involved in Harvard Westlake was Harvard Westlake Venture. And so I did the HW Inc. program, and really found a lot of value throughout that process as well.
The Ink and
Okay,
Venture
thanks so
shout
much.
outs.
Yes.
And of the Ink and
Mr.
Venture.
Levin, shout out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that earlier, especially when you talked about your affinity for camps. I'm like, Mr. Levin would appreciate that for sure.
Yes.
We got a question from a parent, Aparna Pandey. Did you know any athletes at MIT and have any observations about how they balance athletics and their academic workloads?
Yeah, actually, a lot of my friends were all athletes at MIT. I don't know how they really handled that because that seems like a lot, but basically they have like a season. So usually they have like, for example, if they're like a fall sport, they would be working on that fall sport, and probably take a little bit lighter of a course load during that season. And then during the spring, they might put more classes during that time because they have more time. I think generally people did a really great job at managing it, or at least my friends did that I talked to about it. And having like a sport brought them a lot of structure into their lives, and they knew how to time manage themselves because they knew that they didn't have very much time.
Very nice. I can imagine playing sports in college and going to um, class and everything that it requires. That seems like, as you said, a lot. I know a lot of
Yeah.
my friends who started and like they just couldn't continue because it was too much. I PG 29436, who we can't identify by name but by handle, has a question. And I actually had a question about this too. Can you provide more info on the Texas Summer Research Program? Do you remember where it was? Was
Yeah,
it at a
so
college?
yes, it was at Texas Tech.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
actually
say
not sure
Anson
if
L.
this
Clark.
program still
It's the
exists.
Anson L. Clark Scholars Program. I figured that's what it was. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it is. They do a lot of so PG 29436, the Anson L. Clark Scholars Program is in the HW Works recommended summer program, kind of sort of book. It's in HW Works resources. It's at Texas Tech. It happens every year. There's a STEM focus to it, and it's what would be considered a highly competitive, highly selective program. And if you want, I can give you more information about it also, but it's in one of our programs. I figured you were like when a program in Texas, I was like, okay, she would remember the word at Austin. So it wasn't at Austin.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like, when I think of STEM programs, I think Anson L. Clark Scholars at Texas Tech. And once you realize it was at Texas Tech, it's like, that's what it was.
Yes,
So I'm
Lubbock.
happy, right, in Lubbock, a little bit different from Austin. How long was it?
I believe it was 7 weeks.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
it's usually 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. But that's a very real program. It's a very thorough program.
Yeah.
Um, and
I will
like I
say
said,
also though
go ahead.
that you don't really have to do research through a program, or you don't really have to do research at all, first of all, to get into college. But you don't really have to do a program at all. You can probably just reach out to faculty at any university, quite frankly. And it's nice that the programs like these exist, like RSI, like Clark, because it gives you like a direct networking way in, but you can do that on your own as well. But also, they do provide a stipend, which is always nice.
Yeah, those are the ones that we highlight to their elite programs and internships that you can pay for. Then there are ones that will pay you. And those we tend to try to like the latter. Not only because of how it works for your bottom line, but we also want to reinforce the fact that, you all are extremely talented, even though you're young, and, you don't want to get used to exchanging your labor, your expertise, your knowledge for free, right? How you saw it there, she's like, no, we don't.
No,
So I think
even though I'm
that's
doing it now.
well, you got to now. That's part of the process. You're going through a rite of passage right now. Uh, okay. And I actually like to send your questions to the chat, or you can use the hand to do it. We're at 3:43 right now. And once again, Alexandra, thank you so much. You've taken this solo. Normally these panels for at least 3 people, but we can make it work with two, and you've done it solo. So you are to be commended for that. Any other questions? No? Okay. So this concludes. Thank you, Joanne. We appreciate it. This concludes our very first HW alumni at panel. Alexandra So, HW 19, MIT 23. She's at med school at UCSF right now. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. How can people contact you? You're on the platform, I take it, all filled out?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn and send me a message there.
Absolutely. Platform, LinkedIn. Alexandra, thank you. I appreciate it. Our next HW alumni app will be this Thursday, where we'll be doing this Penn guy shutters Princeton. We'll be at HW alumni at Princeton on Thursday. So I hope to see many of you there. Alexandra, thank you again. We appreciate it. And with that, that will be it. Take care,
Of
everybody.
course. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks again, Alexandra.
Thanks.